podcast focused on national security, policy, politics, and selfless service. We're here to give you an honest opinion, different perspective, and hopefully a few laughs. We do this by not only interviewing guests, but also sharing our own perspectives and asking you, the listener, to interact with us on our chat room, via our Facebook page, and of course, on Twitter. Keep it funky.
All right. We are in Georgetown, Texas tonight at Mesquite Creek Outfitters. This is the Nunn. The Stu is coincidentally in Canada, not representing me. He's there to, educate some Canadians on how to do some things that he does in the real world, his real job. But while he's in Canada, I'm holding down the American fort because it's only proper that a Canadian holds down the American fort. But tonight, my main man, Dr. Mike Simpson, is stepping in and rising up as our guest and co-host for tonight. But we're in Mesquite Creek Outfitters in Georgetown, Texas to do this broadcast. As always, the show is brought to you by Enlisted 9 Fight Company tonight. That's why I'm wearing my special Texas shirt. Oh, wrong side. I really just want to show that I've been working out.
The guns.
I can show you the
Two
guns.
tickets to the gun show.
Yeah. But thanks for joining us. Because of not having all the tech tonight, I'm not going to be in the chat room as much. So if you have a question and you know me, text me. If not, keep highlighting it in the chat room, and I'll go in periodically and check that. But Mike, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back. The only thing I would miss jiu-jitsu for.
Well, I know Tuesday nights. It's a big jits night. It's a big jits night.
Pretty much everywhere. Tuesday's a jits night pretty much everywhere.
It's funny how there are things in life that are certain nights of the week. You can count on Wednesday night hockey. Mm-hmm. You can count on Thursday night football or Thursday night volleyball, Friday night hockey, Tuesday night jits.
Yeah.
I guess that's where I'm falling short. I've been trying to. There's a really neat program at the VFW 8787 in Austin.
Yep, I've
Joey
heard about
Zent, veteran jiu-jitsu, and giving free jits to veterans.
Have you heard about brew-jitsu?
Drink and Russ?
Yeah, so apparently this is on Sundays. Somewhere in South Austin, there's like a microbrewery, and they have brew-jitsu. You pay $30, you roll for 2 hours, and get 2 beers.
Yeah, hopefully afterwards.
I would hope so.
Yeah, because I tell you what, I have such a problem. And, the funny thing, it's not in guard, it's not in mount, but when someone's in side control on me, things, I'll tap out in side control because my stomach, if I don't, I have to have nothing in my system, not even water.
Mastering side control pressure is one of those things that I aspire to. I have a pretty good. Tim Kennedy, of course, is the master. He can make pretty much anybody tap from side control.
So Chad Robichaux, who's a little bit shorter than I am. When I say a little bit, I mean a lot. And and I have a good 50 pounds on me, and he gets on top of me, and it's like a 500-pound elephant resting my chest. It's like my chest is heavy, and I cannot breathe.
Yes.
He gets me. But it's good to have you back Tuesday nights. Making the sacrifice from the jits.
Of course.
But you've been hitting the gym pretty hard, so it's okay.
I've been trying.
I've been watching the videos. You motivated me. I hate burpees. My trainer makes me do burpees. My trainer has not pulled the sadistic switch on the burpees to box jump.
So what's funny about that is I posted it, and literally I still had my phone in my hand from posting it when you texted me. Hey, I was like, wow, that's quick.
Well, so as you know, where we're at, there's not a lot of options. Tim, likes to work out down at the Honored Academy in Talent Athlete, and that's just too far away from me. It's too much travel time. I like going down doing the workouts with the guys when they have them, but that's a long way. And up here, you don't have a lot of options. And the other thing is, I don't have a lot of people to do it with, and I have a weird schedule, kind of like you, so it's I I still like working out in the mornings, if possible. I cannot work out at night. I can do activities. I play hockey on Wednesday nights. I can do the jits or something like that in the evening. Psychologically, it's different. Going to the gym at night, I'm just not there. I'm mentally just not there. I feel like if I don't do it in the morning, like it's just not. It doesn't count.
See, I'm that way too, and I think it's a military thing. It's like you got to check that PT block earlier in the day. I've been able to modify it just recently over the last month. I've been able to modify that slightly. I can do some mid to late morning stuff, depending on how much cardio I'm going to do. Maybe have a light breakfast first and go do it, but just to give my gym a plug. So I work out at OPEX Miami.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plug them.
Great place. They're actually going to be opening up at OPEX in Round Rock. So what OPEX is it looks like a CrossFit box when you see it, but it's not. It's very customized. That's why I like it. It's unlike a lot of these CrossFit places where, all right, you're either going to come in and do a WOD completely on your own and just read what it says on the dry erase board. You might not know everything that's up there. Or we're going to have blocks of time, 9, 10, 11, 12, where you're going to come in as a tribe and you're going to do them together. It's not like that. So everybody's doing a different workout. The way it works, I have my own trainer, a guy by the name of Dave Schwanke. And Dave sets up my workouts in advance. It shows up to me in an email. I tap on it. It opens up in an app, and it says, this is your workout for the day. And if it's something like, okay, like today was a great example. I had to do planks with kettlebell pull-throughs. I'd never done that before. So there's a demo video. I just tap on it. It shows me how to do it. And then I put feedback in there, how many sets, how many reps, what weight I did, and I upload it back to him, so that keeps me accountable. And then if I skip workouts, I get nasty emails.
Right.
I get, hey, you missed a workout today. Why'd you miss a workout today? What's going on? So, and then once a month, we have an overall kind of fitness meeting where I can step on the InBody machine, see how much muscle mass I've gained, how much fat I've lost, and kind of how I'm doing overall.
Is there like a taser attached to your phone?
No,
so like when it
that
says
would
you
be
miss
awesome.
an email, you're like, ah!
That'd be like next level.
It's like 50 push-ups, go.
Do you remember that movie, that Stephen King movie? I think it was called Cat's Eye.
No, I don't think I saw that.
There was a thing, and it was James Woods was in it. And it was about he signed up for this company that was going to help him quit smoking.
Yeah.
And they were actually following him like 24 hours a day,
yeah.
and like threatening his family and stuff like that.
I love James.
James Woods is awesome. James Woods, if you're not following James Woods on Twitter,
dude, that guy's
I don't know
savage.
what you're doing with your life. Because it's awesome.
Yeah. And here's the thing that's awesome about him. Like, you don't even have to be conservative to find humor in how he picks people apart.
No.
Like, he's savage.
Yeah.
Like, and, I mean, clearly he leans conservative. But he's pretty...
He's a great fellow.
He picks people apart. But let's give everyone a quick little backstory to you if they don't remember you from previous episodes. You started off as a very young man, Ranger Regiment.
Yeah, 2 weeks out of high school. Went to basic training, infantry, IAT, airborne school, and at the time, the Ranger Indoctrination Program, which is now RASP, of course. I went to 1st Ranger Battalion in Savannah, Georgia, and I spent 4 years there. Got out for a bit, thought I wanted to be a civilian, decided that wasn't for me. Went Special Forces, was a demolitions guy, then ultimately a Special Forces medic. Realized that about 17 years of service, I didn't have a retirement plan. I better come up with something. And I did my undergraduate at Campbell University Night School while stationed at Fort Bragg, and I applied to and was accepted to medical school, became an emergency medicine physician, and ultimately did 32 years and got to do some pretty cool stuff.
The pretty cool stuff that you talk about, like, that's not low-level stuff. Like, that's good-level stuff.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was definitely rewarding.
You got to kind of see the world from a different lens. So you got 18 to 26-year-old men and women going to these foreign lands, being kind of the implementation arm, kind of the, if you will, the instituting foreign policy. Right?
Yeah, they're the blunt instrument.
And they really are. And they have a lens that they look at things through, which is a lot different than their peer group back here in the United States, in academia. They have a different lens. But you actually, had this really unique position of being, due to the organizations that you work with, a 30,000-foot view simultaneously with a ground level view.
Right.
Like, so you got to see policy development and policy execution.
Yeah, and it was kind of neat too because I had kind of a generational view too. Is there? I remember my very first GWAT deployment, which of course was to Iraq, rolling out of the back of a Striker and stacking on a building. And not only was I the oldest guy in the stack, but I had been in Ranger Battalion when the next oldest guy in the stack was in diapers.
Right.
So having that kind of generational view of it. And like you say, being able to see it from kind of the strategic level, seeing the evolution of foreign policy in the United States, knowing what got us into, knowing all the steps that led up to getting us into this war. And it's funny now because you think about the fact that we're in 2018 now. So literally next year, we're going to have people coming into basic training who were born after 9/11. People that are going to be actively engaged in the war on terror who weren't even born when the Twin Towers fell. That's bizarre.
You and I both were guys that came in pre 9/11, and I always look at the guys post 9/11. Especially when I was a weapons squad leader getting ready, for the invasion in Iraq. Looking at my guys, knowing like they're 18 years old, like something happened in high school, they raised their hand, they knew exactly what they were getting into, and then going into the platoon sergeant time and stuff like that, like knowing that these young guys, they all made decisions based on their witnessing it, and I always had a tremendous respect for them because there was like I'm only here for the college money, which I've heard. I went on like a very educational deployment in the 90s to the Balkans. And, it was a peacekeeping mission. It was really educational. I kind of got to see how, different countries' leaderships in Iraq dealing with a humanitarian issue. That was kind of neat. But, like, there were guys there that were like, man, I'm not here for this. I came in for the college money. No one after 9/11 came in for the college money. You came in after 9/11, you knew what was up. Like, and if you didn't, like, you're an idiot. Like,
yeah.
Like, you lived in some kind of cave and you're a deaf mute, with zero contact to the world. Like, you must be Amish. If you came in after 9/11 and, your Rumspringa, was interrupted by a recruiter. You knew what was up.
I was the class of 2006 at the Uniformed Services University where I went to medical school. So I matriculated in 2002. I interviewed in 2001, not long after 9/11. But, of course, my application was already in the pipeline pre 9/11. I can remember as a first year, the faculty constantly talking about how there was a huge dip in applicants between my year and the following year. Because all of a sudden, these recruiters that were trying to sell to people, oh, you're going to be a doctor, yeah, you're going to be in the Army, but really the only difference is you're going to wear a funny suit every day. Being a doctor is being a doctor, and it's not going to be any different. And don't worry about it. Oh, you're not going to. It's not like we're at war. You're not going to have to go anywhere. The realization of that, it suddenly changed. Yeah. So I had a lot of respect for the people that were in the class behind me. Yeah. They knew what they were getting into.
What a neat perspective, because like those guys, not only did they know what they were getting into, like they were probably highly motivated to get there because they were going to participate and witness and work in things that they were not going to. Their true civilian counterparts were not going to. The traumas that they were going to encounter. How many amputations are you going to deal with? Randomly pick a Seton or whatever. Maybe you see one in a year. Maybe you see one of these, a gunshot. Well, you probably see a lot more gunshots. You might, where you'll see a number of gunshots. You'll see a number of stab wounds. You'll see a number of things, but you're not seeing that every day. And so, like those guys really want, and gals really wanted to be doctors. Like, and that's what's neat. Like, they were like, I'm going to do this and for a good cause. Quick shout out, Colton Smith is in the chat room.
Hey, Colton.
And he said that we're two of his favorite people. I'm assuming he said two of my favorite people in the chat room, so I'm assuming he's talking about us.
I hope so.
I'm like, there's no one in the screen behind us. So
miss you, brother.
Man, there's a young man that's doing good things. And again, like talk about the generational gap. I remember the first time I met him, he was a junior member, and now he's a senior non-commissioned officer working for the senior non-commissioned officer, and doing good things. I just earlier this year I had the honor and privilege of speaking up at the JLBM's and the First Brigade, Ghost Brigade's Senior Non-Commissioned Officers Conference Summit, and I got to speak on resiliency. And I'm sitting in the crowd talking. I'm sitting facing the crowd talking. I'm looking at the crowd, and I realize that there's 3 to 4 people in that crowd as senior non-commissioned officers. So this is first sergeants and above that were privates in units that I was in as a leader. And I'm like, it was like, one, it made me feel like an old man, and 2, I was like, how awesome is that? Like the Army's like an ever evolving, ever growing, entity, and I thought, I was a weapon, I was a weapons guy. I enjoyed weapons. Now, like, they start talking about certain nomenclatures of new equipment, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know that yet. I need an education. But while we have you, you spent a great time in the military, did some really cool, neat, high-level stuff. Since getting out, you continue to serve the community as a doctor, but you're also on this little thing called the television, on a channel called History.
Yes,
on a hit show, not just any show, a hit show. And I gotta say, like, there's some good shows on that channel. Curse of Oak Island, which has been going on since my children weren't even thought of, and they're no closer. And here you guys are, 3 seasons in, and you're about to solve one of the greatest historical mysteries. And I dare say,
no spoilers.
If you're up to date on the show this season, we have figured out as an audience that you have already learned not only if it was possible, how it was possible, and where it happened. I mean, like, that is, and like, I don't know anything, full disclosure, I don't know anything. I don't have any back, I don't have some back intel. No one's like, I don't know any spoilers. I just know what I watch, and I watch it just like anybody else. I watch it on Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock Central, which is tonight. So look forward to an episode after this episode. And it's impressive. Like, how is it for you to be a participant? When we did our last show together, you were leaving shortly thereafter. You didn't know exactly what you were going to do, but you knew kind of where you were going.
Right.
And I think you told the audience at the time, you're like, hey, we're filming. I know I'm going to Austria. I think that's what you said.
Yep.
You're like, I know I'm going to Austria. Now, to sit around and watch it, this many months later and see, okay, Bundesgarten, and you're like, oh, like, you're there. This is what you're doing. Minus, digging up a shit pipe. It's been pretty exciting. Which I'm glad they showed, because it showed, like, here's the reality. It's not all, like, super fines. Not every time you get in the water do you find, like, a seaplane. Yeah. Sometimes you get in the water and you find random shit on the bottom of a lake. Yeah. Which also must have been super cool.
That was cool. The dive in the lake was pretty awesome. There were, I think they showed on camera, there was one little metal box that didn't amount to anything that I showed. But, of course, there was a lot of garbage there. There was a lot of, I would say less garbage than you would see in your typical American lake. I mean, it's a pretty pristine alpine lake. But there were some cans and some other things littering it that we had to dig through before. That was a much longer dive, obviously, than came across on television.
So, like, I'm a logistics guy in my mind. Like, my company's called Warrior Media Solutions because I help people solve problems, right? So here you are. You're in Austria. You guys get some of the coolest technology brought out to y'all.
Yeah.
But here's, like, some of the questions I have, because, like, I'm a geek at this. Like, what are the odds that there's a good dive shop at an alpine lake in Austria?
Well, and so you saw the 2 divers that we had. The one that was a dive master who dove with me. That guy is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Number one. And what was weird was it didn't really come across, but I would be swimming alongside him, and I swear his body did not move. Like, he wouldn't even be finning, and his body would be moving along at the same speed. The guy can swim like 6 inches off of the silt floor and not disturb it, which was amazing. The guy that you also saw that looked like the giant Viking, the guy in the leader hose with the big beard. So he's a master diver as well. And he has been in pretty much every lake in that area. So it's There's a lot of diving that goes on up there, mostly in Lake Toplitz,
Okay.
which is a different lake. That's the one that's a little bit more popular. All to see is kind of this little snow globe village. They don't. You notice that the boats we were in,
Yeah,
were
they're
these
the little tiny wooden,
Yeah,
like a dugout canoe almost.
like a little tour boat, like
Yeah.
you'd be on a Disney or something like
Yeah.
that with these little electrical motors. There's only one gas powered motor allowed on the whole lake, and it's a governmental rescue boat.
Oh.
So these are the only type of boats that are allowed. They don't want to disturb the ecosystem. They don't want to disturb the people living there. They want it to remain nice and pristine. That's why it was really hard for us to get access to dive. It was easy to find the divers, but they even were shocked that we got permission to dive.
So like the obviously South America was different.
Mm-hmm.
So Europe, how was that like? I mean, they were surprised you got, but I think is it the power of the show, the power of like the world wanting this information, like the kind of because I'm going to use this village Altusy as an example. Like it is a sheltered snow globe of a town, and part of that I gotta believe is because they don't want people to know, or they don't want to tarnish the reputation of such a beautiful place with the harsh reality, a harsh truth of its history.
Right.
And so it's like, well, maybe we shouldn't, Colonia Dignidad, obviously they didn't want people in there because they're still doing stuff that they probably shouldn't be doing. We don't know what that is. It's probably not making sarin anymore. And it's probably not throwing people out of windows, but it probably ain't right.
It's not right, yeah.
But, with them, it's like, and it's good people, it's generations apart. I love the firsthand witnesses. Everyone I saw on film there was wearing lederhosen.
Yeah.
So you're like, this isn't a novelty. This isn't.
No, they're serious about their lederhosen.
This is like a legit cultural thing.
And some of them, the big bearded guy, that lederhosen that he wears every single day. Because that wasn't the only day that we saw him. Because we had a little the thing that got cut out, and we saw him before that. He wears that. That's his uniform of the day, every single day, and he's the third generation in his family to wear that lederhosen.
Yes, yeah. It must have been a little strong.
Yeah, it's. I don't want to be there when he takes it off at the end of the day.
No, like that's like Bono on tour with his leather pants. All right, it's like because some of that stuff, I was sitting there getting that little backhoe, finding that technology, bringing that little backhoe out and stuff like that. I was like, man, that's super neat that you guys are able to do that. And I know like everyone sees, this episode that's got you and Tim and Gerard, and Gerard. I'm actually a big fan of his. You got they see it and they see this nice piece together thing, but they don't see is like how many doors you knocked on that didn't get answered or got shut in your face. You down at Sunbelt Rentals, or the equivalent of Sunbelt Rentals, going
right.
So we're gonna need like a backhoe.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm gonna need a special permit to dig up this historical site.
Right.
And we don't really know why. This is our idea. And so like people, I'm fascinated by that because I'm like, that's to me part of the story. Like how neat it is. Like I remember Tim talking about season 1 and getting access to the ranch. He had to work on the ranch. But like the show doesn't say that, he doesn't tell that story. And now every time I like watch the show, I'm like, it seems like so simple, like the diving. Oh, it's just some guys out, and we're just gonna go off this little wooden boat and we're gonna swim around. Like I was like, is there a dive shop? So where are you guys going to get tanks? Where are you guys going to get suits? Because I know you didn't check that as luggage. And then like, where do you get like this backhoe? Where do you get these permits? Where like, because Europe's a lot different. South America, it's a very guerrilla style. Like, hey, we got to find this out. So we're gonna go do some of this without like a lot of. We're gonna ask for forgiveness versus permission. We're gonna pretend like we're. I think you guys in the last season talked about, being with Travel Channel or something like that. You like had like a.
Yeah, we had a cover story.
You had a cover story with some kind of travel show, maybe not Travel Channel. If there's, but there, trying to do the right thing. finding like impressive stuff, and also people like, oh, you didn't know, like you didn't know he was here,
Mm-hmm.
like oh like he owned this big hotel. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, but also like you guys hiked up into the wilderness, or you helicoptered in, but then you had to do some hiking around there. But like that's not easy stuff to do either. Like that's some hiding stuff right there, like getting up in the alpine meadows and.
No, and they cut it out, but actually there was twice there was a little bit of a mishap. Well, once there was a mishap flying in, and twice there was a mishap flying out. So flying in, and I really wanted him to leave it in because I thought it added to realism and kind of a sense of danger to the show. As we were coming in on approach, it's a big bowl as you're coming in. You saw it's rocks everywhere, and we had headsets on so James and I could talk about where we were and where we wanted to go. And first time for James ever flying in a helicopter.
Really?
And as we're coming in, the stall alarm goes off. And James says, "What's that?" And I said, "That's a sound you don't want to hear."
Yeah.
And we started to kind of do that backslide from the stall. And he recovered from the stall. Great pilot, brought us back in, and we literally landed on a wooden pallet. They had a wooden pallet that's up there. Because you can pay to go up there. That's a hunting lodge, and in some cases, that helicopter I don't think it ever landed there before. But some people that own some pretty big companies live in that area. Red Bull being one of them, and there's some smaller helicopters like you see around here, the little touring copters that'll go up there and land people in for hunting trips. And then on the way out, running out to get it, where that wooden pallet was, there was I don't know what you call them. There was like some shrubs that had kind of grown up around the side of it. There was actually a hole there, probably that some animal had burrowed down into. And as I was running out, my leg went right into that hole so I'm under the skid, under the pallet, and I'm stuck.
Oh.
Yeah, and I literally had to push myself. I had my pack on, I had to push myself back up. And then we flew out, and they had to go back and get the rest of the crew, because obviously you see we're being filmed as we're leaving out. So we left people, so they had to get. Cameraman does the exact same thing. The cameraman that filmed me doing it
caught himself
in the exact same hole and almost broke his leg.
I'm on that one.
By the way, that cameraman, who's the best cameraman in the business, his name's Ryan Firth. He's from here in Georgetown.
I've heard that. Yeah. He went down to South America too, right?
Yeah, Ryan's phenomenal. He's amazing. He was the director of photography this year.
Nice.
Yeah, great dude.
Young guy too, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I love hearing stuff like that.
Young, but he has an eye like you wouldn't believe.
I love hearing stuff like that. Especially guys going after it, like having an idea or a dream and chasing it. So like on that, I hear like audio catches you saying, "Hey, come this way. You're safe from the rotors this way." I didn't think that. I guess I just assumed that everyone's ridden in a helicopter.
Yeah. And James is tall too, so there's a legitimate issue there.
What's it like working with a guy like him? Because he's extremely knowledgeable. I mean, he's an amazing historian.
Yeah.
For a young guy, like he's extremely well read. He's a great historian. I dare say famous in his field for he's extremely accomplished.
It's probably just about in the UK. It's probably just about impossible for him to go somewhere and not get recognized. He's been, of course, on our show, all the Nazi megastructure shows. He's had multiple of his own documentaries that he's done. He's published multiple books, both historically accurate and novels based, historical fiction. Great guy, knows literally. He can tell you how many rivets are in a Sherman tank.
Is that?
And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, he knows. He knows how many Sherman tanks rolled off the assembly line every single year. There was never, or I should say, it was rare that we would encounter a name. When as we're interviewing people and they say, "Oh, this is the name of the guy that was here," it was rare that he didn't know exactly who they were talking about and know all the details. The one exception to that, that he didn't right off the bat know exactly who they were talking about, was this character Schwent, who lived in the castle.
Yeah.
And part of that was, and within a matter of an hour after us getting back that night, James knew everything about Schwent. And Schwent was a very interesting individual. So this is a guy who, mover and a shaker, hustler. Ended up, even though he was in the German army, ended up going to the stockade for doing all these backdoor deals. And not only did he not stay in prison, but they brought him out, promoted him to major, put him in that castle because they recognized that he was a hustler. So that's why they wanted him to be the guy to set up these dead drops for the rat lines.
The neat thing, like locals term rat line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like part of me, like that focused me for a moment to like get on the Google and like try and find out the origins of the term rat line.
Right.
You know, because my obviously ignorance and naivety is like, oh well, that's a term that we came up with. You know, like that's an American term. You know, like we own that. You know, and it's like, nope,
Nope.
nope. So Hunting Hitler season 3 going really well. What are your thoughts and plans moving forward? Because you've worked, and clearly you're doing it well with some impressive guys, like we were just talking about. Is there opportunities opening up for you to continue doing this kind of stuff?
James and I have talked about a couple of different projects. One that went up to the BBC, passed on it. Another one that we're working on right now that I would really like to get done sooner rather than later because, of course, we're coming up on the anniversary of D-Day. But time will tell. There's a couple that I have in the works with James, a couple that ideas that got put forward with myself and Terry Shepard, and I also have a solo project that I'm talking to one of the production companies about now.
Cool.
So we'll see if it happens, great. If not, I got my shot to do it, and I had fun.
So Terry Shepard, entertaining guy.
Yeah, very interesting cat.
Impressive guy.
Yeah.
He's getting a little bit of media coverage. Pardon me. He's like doing some good speaking stuff. You've kind of put yourself in that niche. So like you got the Sheepdog Project podcast. Your social media is phenomenal. It's entertaining. Although I got to tell you, you got to slow down on giving like this year the annual Idiot of the Internet award out because you've given it out like
I've
5
given
times.
out so much.
You've given it out like 5 times.
2018 has been a busy year for morons.
You might want to be like, this is the guy of the week.
yeah. But so many contenders came forward so quickly in January. It was amazing.
It's a strong opening. It's a strong opening.
Very much.
But on the social media thing, you have a strong following. You have great interaction. You don't have a blue check.
I don't have a blue check mark. I'm not verified.
So do you think, well, you meet all the criteria? You meet the number criteria. You meet the verification criteria.
I've got 2 seasons of a TV show that's been viewed by over 10 million people in the U.S.
You meet that criteria. Do you think you are being treated?
Well,
yeah, no, like it's.
I've been told on multiple occasions. So Tim says in blunt terms, it's because I'm an asshole. So, but I mean, there's a lot of assholes that have blue check marks. So
yeah, no.
David Corn is a huge asshole. He also blocked.
Yeah.
So.
But we were talking before the show, and there's people with blue check marks that had blue check marks before they even tweeted, before they even had followers, before they even knew what they were going to call themselves. We'll go ahead and say like Bradley/Chelsea Manning, at XY Manning
had a blue check mark before the account was even activated.
Yeah, like that to me is like frustrating because like we just saw Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube in front of Congress, with their respective executives like explaining like how they're treating people and potentially censoring, and they're like, oh well, we're not censoring, but clearly there is some censorship. There's certain things like I think, and I can't prove this, You know, and I'm not a big, I'm not Eddie Bravo, and I'm not Alex Jones. I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy. I'm a pretty like nuts and bolts, meat and potatoes, facts versus fiction guy. But the I haven't been able to develop a following base on certain platforms. This being one that reflects the number of views. Like, you know, we'll have thousands of views a week, but you know, we can't get over 500 friends or likes, and then you know we'll hit that number, and then all of a sudden we drop down to a certain number, and we kind of stay steady. And you know, other people have looked at it and you know made comments like, oh well, I think it's because you know obviously my co-host Troy is like you know very pro Trump. You know, like I think I you know obviously lean conservative, but I don't ever come out and say you know who I vote for. And that's because I'm a non-citizen, a documented worker in the United States, a legal resident. The you know, so like it just surprises me that someone of your and yeah, and if Tim's theory is correct, then you are. You know, like there's certain voices that they don't like, and it's really sad because like. When you have someone that can speak truth on so many different issues, personally, my favorite things that you talk about have nothing to do with politics. My favorite things that you talk about on Twitter are medical.
Yeah.
I'm not a medical guy, but I'm a fan of enterprise, and I'm also a fan of human watching. And I think that some of your commentary on the human condition dealing with medicine is fantastic.
And I have to be careful. So I completely have to resist the urge to, and I do not do this. I want to emphasize that I never tweet in the moment. Like if I walk out of a patient's room, I will not tweet in the moment because number one, I'm at work, so that's not where I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be on social media. Number two, to me, I take patient privacy very seriously. I take HIPAA very, very seriously. And physicians and nurses have done this, you know. Highlight of my work day today, patient in you know, enema for patient in room 8. Oh my God, what were you eating? Type thing. It's like, that's completely inappropriate.
Right.
You know, because if somebody,
don't do that.
no, I don't do that. And that's why I don't do that. But I do try to make mental notes to myself of, you know, what's the takeaway point from the individual education that I tried to provide to this patient today, or tried to provide to a primary care physician over the phone today, who sent somebody to my ER to wait for 6 hours for something that they didn't need, maybe. And I try to do so in a humorous fashion. There's a couple other physicians that I follow who, in my opinion, are actually much better at it than I am.
Who are they?
One is called Glock Doc. I don't remember. I think it's at Glock Doc. Yeah, Glock Doc. And I'd have to go on my feed. One is called Sir Pays Too Much Tax, is like his long name. Oh, and then there's a Twitter account called ER Gnome. And it's got a little garden gnome as his symbol, and he's hilarious. So almost all of his stuff is conversations. Me, why did you stick that in your butt?
Yeah.
Patient, you know, whatever. All of his stuff are these little snippets of conversations. So, but it's really fun.
No, like I think one of the best ways to learn about the human condition is to see people in a moment of vulnerability. And I think medically, there's no greater moment of vulnerability than medicine. You know, and it's like, why is your ear not on your head anymore? Well, funny you should ask. I did this stupid thing, or why did I think that? Because like I ran up these stairs, and now my heart's beating fast. I should call 911 because I'm probably having a heart attack. Well, you're 18 years old and in good shape. You just ran up the stairs. Right. Like you're not having a cardiac event.
And you drank a full throttle.
And full throttle's good, by the way. Full throttle's good.
Yeah, Tim Kennedy endorses.
He meant to say monster.
Sorry, monster. Full throttle amps you up. I don't think they'd have a problem with that.
No, I like full throttle. I'm such a fan of Full Throttle that I personally dislike Monster. Some about the taste I just never have enjoyed. I like Full Throttle so much, and I couldn't get it in Iraq as often as I want. I bought a pallet of Full Throttle and had it slung low, into like my little compound. And then I was like,
It's dedication.
and I was like the Full Throttle dealer.
Did you ever get bullfrogs in Afghanistan?
No, I didn't do Afghanistan, but we had
rippets.
We had rippets. Yeah.
But
tigers something.
Tiger something. Yeah. The bullfrogs. They had bullfrog. They had a sugar-free bullfrog, which I liked. I should have brought some.
There was a sugar-free rippet.
I never saw it.
Yeah, there was a sugar-free rippet. But rippet, was like basically Robitussin without the effects.
Yeah, it was bubbly Robitussin.
Yeah. Which you can buy here in Tall Boys.
Yeah.
I had someone deliver some. Shout out to Michael Harmon for a special, 8-pack of rippet Tall Boy delivery a couple months ago. That I still haven't drank all of them because rippets in moderation.
I've literally not only have I only drank rippets in theater and only in Iraq, but I've only drank rippets in the back of a Striker. Well, like I would never sit around the hooch and drink a rippet.
Shout out to my Strikes.
It was always post mission.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to drink a rippet unless I'm doing this.
So I'm almost done with it, and it's all trademarked, so no one can steal it. But my new book that's hopefully coming out next year or this year, before October, it's called Recreational Warfare, and it's all stories about like stuff like this. It's like you go on, like I'm a striker guy, so we'd go do a striker, we'd go do a raid, and then it's like, okay, we're back at the fob. What do we do? Guitar Hero's up, and you're like, this is war. Like you're like, Midnight Chow's still open, or like, let's go get Midnight Chow before we go do this hit.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's so in comparison to like 03, 04, where there was no Guitar Hero, there was none of that, and like you had one sat phone per company that you got your 5 minutes on once a month, like no internet and stuff like that. But now, like there are guys that are engaged in warfare that like they're not outside the wire longer than 6 hours.
Yeah,
like 8 hours is like we're pushing our longevity here. Like that, what happened to the 72-hour rucksack? It's a 3-hour assault pack. It's not a 3-day. It's a 3 hour.
I didn't see. That's like, all of my ops were like
quick.
Because all of my ops. I mean, obviously I was operating
like your later ops, your earlier ops weren't.
Well, I never.
You weren't on 3-hour ops when you were like an 18 Charlie and an 18 Delta.
No, but that was different. I mean, that was counter drug. Yeah. Going out for a week in counter drug was totally different. Setting up a hide site somewhere in the jungle, that was totally different. But all my GWAT stuff was, all right, sun's down.
We own it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're vampires. We got to be back before the sun comes up.
And then you're eating nice chow and
eating good chow. Yeah.
Yeah, on the Yahoo. Web with the wife, and that's the cool thing about some of that. But it's also like this false sense of security too. Like we have a lot of young soldiers and leaders that think it's warfare. I've been watching the Nat Geo series Chain of Command, which if you haven't had a chance to watch, go back and watch it because it deals with the entire chain of command. So it has a young infantry company commander and his guys in Iraq fighting for Mosul. So it's backdated. So it starts under the previous administration, transitions into this administration. You see the RIPTOA, which is the relief in place transition of authority between the two infantry companies. And you see the battalion command engagement. You see the brigade command engagement. You see, the regional command engagement. It's neat for me. My old boss, Colonel, at the time he was Colonel Townsend. Now, Lieutenant General Townsend and General Nicholson, are both leaders of mine in the past, are now leaders of this offensive. But you see like the actual liberation. You see the stages of it. You see it from different echelons. I mean, so you see, okay, here's what the commander-in-chief says, and this is why he says it, and then back up the line. So it's really neat, and they did a good job of it. But those guys, like, they're not enjoying some of the amenities that we were enjoying. Like,
no,
that's some old school, like, put up some Texas barriers, put up, some quick huts and fill a lot of sandbags, and let's suck for a little bit. But it's neat seeing that stuff. We kind of got sidetracked there. I really want to talk to you about podcasting and, like, how you feel about it, how you feel it's going for you. With your social media interaction, you have really got some cool conversations going on with neat people. Obviously, some of these are professional relationships, from previous jobs. But you got great interactions with Terry Shepard, with Mr. Rob O'Neill, and other people, and you're getting good interactions with guys like Jocko, Willie. You're getting cool interactions. You're talking to neat people. You're becoming guests on their shows. They're becoming guests on your shows. How do you like that platform? Do you feel like you're benefiting, like you're learning, or do you feel like this is? Because for me, I feel like our show is 80% personal benefit, 20% audience benefit. And no offense to y'all out there, I just really like learning. Like, I like reading books. I like having people on and picking their minds about what inspired them to write that book. How did they get into that? How did they learn the historical aspect of it? How did you get into being where you're at? What was the inspiration that took you from being a young ranger to a doctor? I like that stuff. I also like seeing, like, I love the human condition. I like learning that. So for me, like, it's super selfish, like and the fact that I get to share it. I love Joe Rogan's long form of conversation. You don't get, you don't see any interview sheet in front of you where I'm like, I got to ask this, I got to ask this, I got to check this blog, I got to plug this product. I got to, no, let's communicate. Teach me. Like, I want to learn. I want to learn about your lens. How can that influence me? So do you take that when, obviously the Sheepdog Project is very, like, educational, audience based, like, here, this is what you do here. But, like, with the new guests and your interaction and being a guest, like, how do you feel about that?
For me, like you said, it's 80-20. I think that's a good way to cut it down, because when I started, of course, before the Sheepdog Project, it was Mind of the Warrior. When I started it, I remember how excited I was just to have 100 downloads. I was like, wow, 100 people that I don't know listen to me talk.
Like the same things I like.
Yeah. I was like amazed by that. And when I first started getting iTunes reviews, I'm like, wow, people are, like, listening to this. But to me, it was in a way, when I first started out, I almost felt like I was cheating. Like, so this has probably come up on multiple TV shows and movies throughout the years, and it's probably been a real thing, is these skeezy guys who would pretend to be photographers so they could, like, take pictures of, like, really hot girls in bikinis and stuff like that. So that's when I started out podcasting, and I started putting out to people, hey man, I've got a podcast, will you be my guest? And I was hitting up people like Robin Black and Terry Shepard, people that I legitimately just wanted to talk to, Chael Sonnen, and they're agreeing to be on my show, and it's like, this is so cool. It's like, I've got a show, I've got a podcast, like, and at that time nobody was listening to it, but I'm talking to Robin Black and Chael Sonnen and Terry Shepard and Tim Kennedy, because that was before Tim and I were really close. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like, this is a mechanism for me to get to talk to these people, and I'm just enjoying the conversation. I'm finding out so many cool things about this person, like you said, and then I get to put it out there, and other people get to enjoy it too. And I've gotten into it now with the Sheepdog Project. That for Tim and I, it's the same way. We're going to talk about things that interest us, and we get a lot of, hey, you guys should do a show on this. You guys should do a show on that. We try to take those into account, but sometimes it's like we get, like, technical down to the detail. You guys should do a breakdown of X, Y, Z, and it's like,
sounds like you already did it.
Yeah, number one, that sounds incredibly boring. Number two, that's not something that we're just interested in doing, and I don't think our audience is interested in doing. So, last two podcasts that Tim and I recorded was just, and literally we'll sit down and right before the mic goes hot, we'll be like, what are we talking about? Oh, you know what? I thought about this on the drive over. Okay, we'll talk about that.
One of my favorite episodes that you guys, well, it's actually just you, and you go through. I think I've told you this before. You go through and explain what alarm bells should go off in someone's head when certain words are used.
Oh, the buzzwords.
Yeah, where you're like, if someone says, "in my opinion," or "in my," like, this is what it really means.
Yeah.
And, and I thought you nailed it on the head with that. But you did that just kind of like freestyle, free flowing, like stream of consciousness. Sat there and just kind of put that out because you were like trying to get
I think I think that was reaction to a news cycle too. Yeah. That anonymous sources were reporting a lot of things. Sources close to so and so have been overheard. Yeah.
Good. There's more crap being put out there nowadays than I think. There's always been crap put out there. The only difference is like the crap that was put out there before happened right there, and that's where it ended. Now the crap that's being put out is being put out up there and going everywhere.
It's just on blast. Yeah.
I was watching somebody the other day. They cut to a clip of one of the biggest shows on daytime television, The View, and one of the hosts of The View, Joy Behar, like made the statement, and she's like, "Well, everybody knows that da 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 da," and the guest is like, "No, that's 100% inaccurate, wrong. That's not factually correct. That's not even close. This is what it is."
And that's one of the.
And she was like, "No, it's not. No, it's not." It's like, and the guest was like, "Where did you get your information?" Like,
and she probably said PolitiFact or something.
She didn't say anywhere. She's like, "Everybody knows."
Right.
Like, everybody knows that you shouldn't, like drive on the left side of the road in America.
Right.
Yet, like every night, 50 people attempt it in just our immediate vicinity.
Anytime you say something anybody knows, or this is another one that I hate when you see people debating, is this is always a gotcha. They'll say, well, we can all agree that, and whatever they say afterwards is something that 100% we don't all agree. Right. But they're throwing it out there to oversimplify it, or to make it say, well, if you don't agree with me, you're in this 1% that's just an absolute.
Or to try and make you an outlier. Yeah. Like trying to be like, if you buck up against that, well, you're not part of the collective.
You brought up The View, so I got to say this about The View. So I hating The View is like a guilty pleasure of mine. So if you took all of the people that are on The View, if you could harness all of their brain power and transform it into electricity, you could lightly toast one piece of stale bread. And the fact that they're allowed a forum to spew that crap every day, and the only thing dumber than the people on The View are the people watching The View and gobbling that shit up.
And I'm in no way defending them in any capacity. I'm also fascinated that they are constantly fully funded.
Yeah,
and like, to me, like,
there's a lot
that is a huge red flag.
Yeah,
and a great commentary on the status of our civilization. Yeah. Because like, here you have, and I'm choosing my words carefully here. I believe that the majority of true comedians that I've encountered in my life, met or not met, watched, like studied, are some of the most intellectual people. And to people think, well, they just talk about simple stuff. Well, they get something out of that simple stuff that you didn't.
Right.
And that's why you're laughing.
Right.
Because you identify at the moment that they bring it out that, yes, that is funny. And they were smart enough to extract it while you were not.
Right.
So, like, I'm not saying this disparagingly towards comedians. With that said, though, just because you can take a simple daily activity whatever it might be, making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and extract something humorous out of it,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that you need to be the voice of political commentary
Right.
for a nation.
Right.
And it is nice to have color commentary, but sometimes you need technical commentary to go with it. Joe Rogan is an extremely accomplished comedian, extremely intellectual man. He is not the color commentator of the UFC because he's a comedian.
Right.
Nor is he the color commentator of the UFC because he was the host of Fear Factor.
Right.
Or on a horrible news radio, whatever show he was on.
That was a good show.
Or was it Ellen?
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember
No,
what
he was
show
on News Radio.
News Radio. Yeah. He is the color commentator because he understands the fight game. That's why Big John McCarthy, the former founding ref within the mixed martial arts community, is now a commentator with Bellator because they have the technical knowledge to do that. Now you have people that have
Dennis Miller couldn't do that job.
No.
As smart as Dennis Miller is, and as funny as Dennis Miller is, he couldn't do that job.
Right.
Yeah.
But what Dennis Miller can do is provide political commentary because he can extract the humor out of the political sphere and turn it into a entertaining lesson in humanity. Now, Al Franken tried translating that into a political career, making fun of politics. He thought he was qualified to be a politician, and what he learned was he was not. He was not qualified. He failed as a politician. He failed as a human being. Like he thought, being a politician, you enjoy the benefits of celebrity, and being a celebrity, he thought you enjoy the benefits of politics, and that's those two don't go hand in hand.
Nope.
That's why Alec Baldwin's not in office.
Right, and never will be.
And never will be.
We shouldn't say never.
He might run.
Five years ago, Donald Trump would never be president.
Right.
So,
but yes, and so far, so good. He's doing something right. But people going into politics, I saw a thing, Leroy Petrie, Medal of Honor awardee.
I saw he posted that yesterday or today.
Yeah, that he's thinking about making a run. I don't know if that's reactionary to something that's happening in his life. I don't know the backstory to it, but there's a guy that has a little bit of experience and has a little bit of exposure that can do it. We got guys like Brian Mast down in Florida, double-leg amputee, as now a member of Congress.
Nick Freitas, former SF guy, is running. Who's the former SEAL with the eye patch that's running? That's here in Texas. God, I follow him on Twitter too. I feel terrible.
Next week we have, not next week, on the 20th on our show, we have William Negley, who's running for Congress here in Texas. That's a CIA guy, a career CIA guy, and there's some guys that can translate their real world experience into, they have something to add. They have an understanding of service, and they have an understanding of real world experience that they can translate into it. Someone that doesn't, I would say, is Chelsea Manning. Here's someone like, oh, well, because I have a Twitter following and I have a blue check mark, and I understand what it's like to be in prison, which I don't think she actually understands what it's like to be in prison. I'm going to run for the Senate. I believe she's running for Senate, not Congress.
Yeah,
not the House. They're both Congress.
Right.
If you're
Senate,
with immigration,
Senate,
I am studying. I didn't make that mistake. I believe she's running for the Senate, not the House.
Which is a dumb move right out of the gate.
Yeah, you need
much
to be
more difficult.
I mean, you need to be housebroken, right? Isn't that what they say? You
That's
need
what
to
they
be
say. Yeah.
You need to be housebroken before you go to the Senate.
Yeah. So I mean, unless you are somebody who was the Attorney General of the state in which you're running, and you already have a name, that's an incredibly dumb move.
Right.
But we're talking about somebody who's known for incredibly dumb moves.
Right. Not just known, convicted.
Convicted of incredibly dumb moves.
Yeah. Felonious.
And here's the thing about Chelsea is I don't know how many fans of the show you have from the trans community. I don't know if you've ever checked your demographic on that? Chelsea Manning is not your icon, is not your role model.
No, I'm absolutely.
Just because trans or not, whether we're talking about Chelsea Manning or whether we're talking about Bradley Manning, we're talking about a despicable human being.
Right. No, not who you want.
No.
And I'm in complete agreement with what you're putting down here. And you know, all people are welcome. You know, in our audience. And you want someone to be a leader of your community, to be someone that can actually affect and influence and better your community, not cheapen it, not bring it down, not like there's, you know, like a reason why I don't like Paul Rykoff. I think Paul Rykoff's a douchebag loser that you know, shouldn't be considered a leader in the veteran community. Yet people like are all, you know, fans of this guy, and he's a self-serving, you know, guy that is only there for himself. He's not. He doesn't care about the veteran community.
No.
So we don't need guys like that leading the veteran community. What we need in terms of leading the veteran community are guys like you, guys that can speak intelligently on what it's like to be part of a medical institution. Like the VA system is a broken, corrupt, institutionalized bureaucracy that needs to end. We need to ratify it. We need to like come at it from different angles. Some of it's important that we keep. Some of it's important that, you know, we jettison, and some of the people involved we need to purge. But you know, like while I say all those things, I don't have all the answers to how to do that. And there's nothing I hate more than someone that complains that doesn't have a solution. But what we need in our community is people like you.
Well,
that might have
you talked about Paul Rykoff. So his solution to what's wrong with the VA was breastfeeding lounges. He said we needed $2 million for breastfeeding lounges, and we need to change the sign on the front of the VA because it's sexist.
Yeah.
With everything else is wrong, you know, veterans are dying in waiting rooms.
They're
dying on waiting lists. They're killing themselves at the rate of 22 a day. And we're worried about a sign from an Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, no, I'm obviously I can't speak to what was going through the mind of a man that killed himself in a parking lot of a VA. But I'm confident that if he took his own life in the parking lot of the VA, it wasn't to make a statement about the quote that's on the wall walking in. You know, it's more of a commentary to, like, I'm here for help. I can't get help. There's no help for me. I have no hope. But no, you're absolutely right. And these are the things, like, we don't need people like that leading our community. What we need is people within our community that have the wherewithal, the knowledge base. And everyone knows that we have that. And when I say everyone knows, any person with an ounce of common sense and with any exposure to the military in any capacity, even if it's not direct, can find it academically, can find it historically, that what's in the military is not the lowest of the low. Like that teacher out in California said.
Yeah,
like
Mr. Salcido.
Mr. Salcido. How many presidents of the United States were veterans? It's easier to count how many were not than it is to count how many were. How many men went into outer space and women have gone into outer space that have not had some kind of military experience? At least in America, the very few that are not, the astronauts that are not, it's easier to count the number of astronauts that are not military than are.
Correct.
And we're talking doctors. You know, like you have achieved the highest level of education, and you're achieving the highest level of performance that our country and technology have to offer. That is not the lowest level.
No.
Yeah, but people can get away with saying that. On our last episode, Troy, myself, and the owner of Gear for Grunts, Doug Mullins, talked about this a little bit. But one of the reasons is we don't tell our stories very well. Like lately, this generation, the previous generation before us, the greatest generation. Well, I guess that's 1.5 generations before us. did a great job telling our story because their story was America's story.
Mm-hmm.
Our veteran communities, Vietnam and on, is not the story of America.
No.
And that's our fault. That's not society's fault. It's our fault. We're not telling our story. When we do tell our story, we tell like crazy stories like Rambo 1, 2, and 3, which while are all awesome, that's not the true story of, like that's not the example of what, an SF guy does.
Right.
Now there are guys, like Free Burma Rangers that do stuff like that, but that's not our story. Our story should be like the guys that came back and started companies, the guys that came back, continued to serve and did amazing things.
Guys that started Enlisted 9, guys that started Combat Flip-Flops, Whoopee Shoes, Black Rifle Coffee.
Yeah, no,
the list goes on and on and on and on. Long Tap Brewing Company.
That should be our story, and like I don't know Evan Hafer. I will say I'm a fan, and the reason I'm a fan is because he was able to take an idea, turn it into a business, and translate that business into something very positive, and for not just himself. I mean, look at the success and the blessings that he's been able to pass on to some guys that might not have amounted to anything. You can look at guys like Nick Palmisano, who's also done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like he said, okay, here's my idea, here's what I believe that we can do. I'm an enterprising guy, I'm a business guy. I'm going to use my military experience to create this product, and I'm going to leverage that product into doing something positive for the community, and not just for myself. I'm going to bring all you that want to get on board with me and all are welcome. Like, we're not discriminating. We're all are welcome. And Evan Hafer, I think, is an extremely great example of that. Nick Palmisano, obviously, Colton and Dan, with Enlisted 9. Combat Flip-Flops, I think, is just a cool story.
Yeah.
I'd like to say it's a great American story, but I think that's doing them an injustice because
it's a global story.
It's a global story because they do something that's outside of America. But those are the kind of people we need as our voices. I get Twitter beef every now and with some of the vote back guys, because they don't know and care about our community. What they care about is saying what's going to help that check keep coming in to keep them alive in their stupid job in D.C. to go around. Like, I don't think anyone takes them seriously. I mean, they're probably talking to Maxine Waters and Booker every day. Like, who can you go meet with in Congress that's going to take you seriously?
The thing about and we talked about IAVA, and anybody that follows me, and you and I will go back and forth with this on Twitter, slamming IAVA and vote. And
I don't call it slam. I believe it's speaking truth.
I do too. I do too. And IAV we talked about. We're not talking about them. Where vote vets. So IAVA, in my opinion, their focus, their goal, what unites them, is getting Paul Reich off into office.
Yes. That's
what whether they realize it or not. I think that's what unites them. That's Mike's opinion. So I don't have to use the word allegedly because I said that's my opinion. Backed up by several individuals who work there who've told me. Vote vets, I don't even think is united by what they're for. They're united by what they're against.
Yeah.
They're just, we're anti-Trump. If it would
100% anti-Trump.
If Ted Cruz would have won the nomination, he was in office, we would have been anti-Ted. We're anti. We have very close ties to MoveOn.org, to Wes Clark, who's a complete turd, to all these other individuals. And if you look, I just posted this, I think, right before coming over here. In 2007, in an interview, they said that they only had 1,000 vet members. This was in 2007.
Yeah, but what do they consider a member? A follower?
I don't know. I don't even know how you go about being a member of the organization. But now, all of a sudden, this number is. It says in the thing. It says 500,000. Yeah. But somebody called them out and said they wanted an actual number.
Yeah.
And they said nearly 20,000 vets and family members.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so let's say that those are all just couples. So now you're talking about 10,000.
Right.
Okay.
And, I'm not speaking for my children, but there's probably been a time in my children's life that they were not happy with the military because Daddy wasn't around.
Right.
And they didn't blame Daddy because Daddy was doing the job. They blamed the military because the military made me do my job. I try to explain to them that's not how it works. But they were young.
Right.
Like they might not understand. Like, is that who you're counting? Like that membership base. Like I think Vote Vest is just a financial front. To inject political commentary that is purely just, anti-establishment.
If you look when they post something, the people that glom onto that are people of that extreme view, but none of the people commenting or retweeting the stuff that they're putting up are vets. If you look at any,
it's family members, it's moms, it's not. Yeah.
It's angry people in the resistance that are doing it.
That Uncle Bill served.
Right, and that's what I had Julia Dye on the podcast a couple weeks ago. Great guest, Captain Dale Dye's wife, of course, published author, great. So she's been a military daughter, military spouse, so she understands it. And you and I both appreciate the sacrifices that our family members have made. And certainly we could not have done this without them. But one of the things that always drives me crazy, and this used to happen to me all the time when I would get into these social media engagements with people, and I'd be like, well, no, look, I've served for this many years. And I try not to play the card, right, as a veteran. But, I'm saying, okay, this is my opinion based on what. And they'll throw back, my dad and all my uncles served, and you're wrong. Are they all sitting next to you right now? Like right this minute?
No.
Yeah.
Because if they were, they'd be like,
Yeah, and oh, by the way, so just because your uncle, who you saw twice a year growing up, was at Iwo Jima, that doesn't give you the right to slander me because of what I've done.
Yeah. No, I remember because one came after me, and and they they're like, well, their immediate answer is like, well, you're just a troll. Like, yeah.
I've been called a Russian bot.
Yeah, like you're like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
They're like, you're not a real veteran. You're right. I'm not.
Oh, I get. You're a fake doctor.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, you're cool, man. Like sticks and stones.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is, like, I actually know what I'm talking about, and 5 seconds on the Google. Well, I mean, I know Toby Nunn's not the most common name on earth. I know I'm not the only one. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty confident that if you type Toby Nunn into Google, I will fill the first couple pages before you find another one. Right. There's way, you don't believe I was in combat. Go watch a documentary they did of me in combat.
Right.
Like, their answer is always like, well, I know because so-and-so. It's not...
Because my friend told me.
It's not acquaintance with. It's knowledge of. And, that's the old academic argument, right? Well, in this book it says, and then you have the salty sitting next to him going like, well, in reality, this is what I experienced. Who's right? Because I would think that experience is the greatest educator that there can be. But if I, was at Evergreen State University, like that'd be an aggressive statement. We're running a little late on time here, but there's excitement, for the rest of the season. We're about halfway through.
Mm-hmm. Tonight you get to see me, and so what I took away from the season is never be standing next to Tim Kennedy when you're both wearing a wetsuit. So I'm going to apologize for what you might want to send the kids out of the room.
Well, it's 9 o'clock. They should be.
Yeah, I wasn't at my best. So, but it accentuates the negative and it diminishes the positive, especially when Tim's standing next to you.
So you might have something with coming out solo. You might have some other stuff.
I'm pitching it to people.
Yeah, all right. So no announcements.
No, nothing yet.
Well, I hope on behalf of everyone in my household, whatever you pitch gets accepted. We love seeing you on TV. Like I was saying earlier, I think you're a wonderful voice in the community, not just for veterans. I think you're a wonderful voice just because the education, the experience behind you, like, can really teach some folks some things, and that's what we need. You know, like we need to learn. We need to listen. Like, you know, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. We need to listen more than we speak. And you know, in my in my house, you know, we try to do that. It's tough, but and it's because you know you guys are out there doing some neat stuff. I think the premise of the show is fantastic. I have a really good friend and business partner. Shout out to Mr. Russell White. That you know is like, you know, one of the things we talk about every time we talk is you know, how you guys could debunk some other things, because you know the knowledge base, the expertise, the skill sets you could utilize to investigate some other things that are out there. And so you know, and I'm not talking about trying to track down Bigfoot. There's some legit things out there that you guys could do. No disrespect, Bigfoot, if you're watching, or Sasquatch, as you know my people like to call him. But we hope we see you. We're looking forward to some of the future podcasts. Tell everyone where they can find the podcast if they don't already know.
So you can find it on iTunes as the Sheepdog Project. We're also on Stitcher, Podbay, pretty much every. I'm always learning how to use Libsyn, so it tells me what the breakdown is. So we're on pretty much any platform you can imagine. It's called the Sheepdog Project. If you can't find it anywhere else, if you go to the Sheepdog Response website, you can click on the tab Podcast, and you can find it there. And we're trying. We've gotten to the point now where we're trying more and more to upload the old episodes onto YouTube.
The YouTube is a cool platform. I'm becoming more and more of a YouTube fan. I've always enjoyed it, but I think you know you can just do so much more with it now, and I think honestly I believe like that's the future of television. Like that kind of it, maybe not YouTube, something YouTube-ish is going to change. It's going to destroy cable. It's already, you know, we're seeing it with Netflix. We're seeing it. I'm excited.
You know, it's pretty with Amazon Prime TV and Netflix. Yeah. It's pretty amazing that, you know, the Man in the High Castle and Stranger Things and all these things that, you know, that they're not even on regular networks. And I actually have a fiction project that I'm working on, and that's one of the things that the director and the co-writer and I have talked about is the possibility that this could be a Netflix series as opposed to you know, pitching it to HBO or somebody else.
I remember when Netflix had maybe 2-3 series. Yeah. And now they have 50.
Yeah.
And they cherry pick good series. A&E had Longmire, and they were like, and Netflix are like, we'll take this off. We'll take this off your hands and make it wildly more popular and famous than you ever could. Shout out to motorcycle riding Katie Sackhoff. She's got an amazing cafe racer, which is the only reason why I like her. But so check everyone out. Check them out on the YouTube. You can follow us on at Stu and the Nunn on Twitter, at Toby Nunn on Twitter, at Boo Hammer. Even though he's in Canada, we'll give him a little. This is how you can follow him, and you know, like our Facebook page. Obviously, we know that even if you like it, it's always going to stay at the same number. We come to terms with that.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. But thanks for listening. Next week we have Mike Scotty as our guest. He'll be back. He's just returned from overseas, so we're excited to hear what he's got. The following week, on the 20th of February, is going to be Mr. William Negley, who's a former CIA officer that's now running for Congress in the Republic of Texas, the great state of Texas. So we're looking forward to having him on. Mike, thanks for coming on and co-hosting and letting us chat about everything from jits to douches to losers. But it's great to have this. Time went fast. We're actually over time, and I lost track of it. Sorry to everyone in the chat room that I haven't been following that much because we've been too busy doing the fun stuff. But watch Hunting Hitler tonight, every Tuesday night for the next 6 more weeks, I believe.
I think we're down to 4.
4 weeks.
Yeah, we're down to 4. So getting close.
Tuesday night's History Channel, 9 Central, 8 Eastern. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week.